Welcome back to Math 20-2. So right now we are going to go over this practice exam. This will be the last one. I think these two sheets should be enough. If you can do these two sheets, you're going to be great for this exam tomorrow. All right? So let's try to solve these. So here the first one says we're going to try to solve by factoring. All right? So, not solve by graphing. It just says solve. Like honestly, when it says solve by graphing, you can solve it however you want. I don't care. If you're going to solve it algebraically, go ahead. Like factor it out and get the answers that way. That'd be awesome if you could do that. But if it just says solve and it says by graphing, there's no way for me to know that you graphed it or not. All right? I'm not looking over your shoulder and saying, oh, let's see if you can press these buttons in your calculator. But since it's asking me to do that anyway, I'm going to type it in this way. So I'm going to go 2x squared here minus 12x minus 14. I have an idea what the answer could be. Since to the nearest hundredth, I'm trying to determine zeros, that's solving. All right? Trying to find our solutions, and zeros are the same thing. So it's equal to 0, so that's good. I had to make sure that in the y2 I have a 0 spot as well. And then I hit graph. There's my two answers. It looks like -1 and 4, 5, 6, 7. But let's double check here. Second trace number 5. Enter, enter, enter. Yep, -1. Just keep that in mind. And let's do it again. Second trace number 5. Enter, enter. But this time I'm going to guess 8. It's actually 7, so I actually found the better answer. Okay? So -1 and 7. And that's it. So if I just said solve by graphing, you just put down here, -1 and 7. There's my answers. Nothing else to show. The only thing you really have to show, say like this next one, is you have to make it equal to 0 and show that step. Right? Write this in standard form, equal to 0. So I'm going to rearrange this equation to make it equal to 0. So let's see, I'm going to take the -4 m squared, I'm going to add it over to this side. So I'm going to add 4m squared. I'm going to take the 4m and minus it over, so minus 4m. I'm going to take the 8 as well. I'm going to add the 8 over the other side. So I'm moving everything to the left side. Now it doesn't matter which way you go. Like you can move it to the right side or the left side. Just because I did it to the left. So I'm going to add over this, so I get 6m squared. I'm going to add, minus this one over, minus 14m, then add over the 8. Okay. Then it says solve the equation by graphing again. I could try to factor this. You notice I didn't have to take out the GCF when I factor these. So also if I use the quadratic formula, I don't have to do that either. So let's just see if I can graph this one again. So y is equal to, so I'm going to just type this in blindly. I can't see because my head's in the way. I just probably already messed up tonight. No, I didn't. Minus 14x plus 8. All right, so there's my equation. Instead of m's, I've got to put 8 x's in there. I have that 0 in my second equation because I made this equal to 0. So that's very important. I'm going to get graph. I'm just going to see. Oh, well, looks like it might be 2 answers there. If you want to, you can zoom in and just double check here. Ah, yes, there's definitely 2 answers there. So second trace number 5. Enter, enter, enter. So my first one's going to be 1. So just keep that in mind, 1. And my next one is going to be probably a decimal. Enter, enter. And I'm going to move over there. 1.3 repeating. All right. So I have 2 answers. I have m is equal to 1. And then 1.3 repeating. I'm going to go back to my calculator here. So 1.3 repeating. So right now, because I solved for x, I hit the solve button, it said the word intersection there. It actually stores that answer into x for me, so I have it right here. So I just hit x and hit enter again, so it's under x. And then once it's there, I can just go math, enter, enter. Ah, it is a fraction, 4 over 3. I forgot what that was. So 4 over 3, my 2 answers. Cool. A little bracket around that. And again, you could have used the quadratic formula. You could have factored. These are nice answers. which means you could have factored this question. That's what we got to do in the next one. All right, so let's see what we have here. This is equal to 0, so m times m. What's going to multiply to 16? I think we did this in class. We got 8, we got a 2. 8 times 2 is 16. Oh, but I got to add to a negative. Multiply to a positive. Two negatives, 2 negatives. Okay, cool. But the factoring is only part of the question. We've got to solve this question, right? Solve by factoring. So we factored it, but now we've got to figure out what would make this equal to 0, or like the next question, equal to 20. So 8 minus 8 would get 0, and then 2 minus 2 would give me 0 as well. All right, if I'm going to solve by factoring, what we're going to have to do first is rearrange it to make it equal to 0 first. So I'm going to minus over that 20. I'm going to bracket, 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 bracket. P times P gets me P squared. That's the only thing that works. And then get 20. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to put this on the head over here. So I'm going to multiply that to 20. 120, 2, 10, 4. Oh, 4 and 5. 4 and 5. Okay. Positive 4, negative, or sorry, positive 5, negative 4. Because I've got to add to a positive number. So I got all the positive numbers here. It's got to multiply to a negative. That's the only one that works. All right, so negative 4, positive 5. Oop, I don't know why I put a little line on top of that. I'm getting confused with physics here. All right, so I look at this and I say, oh, 4 minus 4 would be an answer. Negative 5 plus 5 would also equal 0. And there's my two answers. I should put a box sticker on my answers. So 5. Just like the other worksheet, sometimes they're already factored for you. I'm not going to make you solve or factor a complex trinomial, at least in this course here. So in my head, I'd be like solving, okay, on the side here, 2x minus 5, that's equal to 0. So add the 5, and then divide by 2. 5 over 2. Then I do it again for this other one, and I get negative 7 over 3. So the negative is really important there. I'm just looking at all the questions we have here. No, it's not that many. Okay. Solve by using the quadratic formula. Total multiplies it to 2. You probably factor this one. But you know what? I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So you got the A, you got the B, you got the C. You could pretty much just label it underneath this. As long as it's in the proper order, you got the squared, and then you got the non-squared, and then you got nothing. And it's equal to 0, A, B, C. The B being negative 3. All right, so my equation, I know the equation up there says x equal to, but there's a y in this equation, so we can say y is equal to instead. So y is equal to, and then it says negative b, but negative 3 turns positive, so 2 negatives. B squared, negative 3 squared is 9, positive 9, right? Make sure you remember that. 4 times 2 times 1. That's 4 times A times C. The 4 is just part of the equation. And the bottom is 2 times A, and A happens to be 2, so that's 4. All right, so let's just simplify this down a little bit. So I've got plus 3, plus or minus, and then I'll just type this in my calculator. I've got my calculator here. I'm going to type it out. 9 minus 4 times 2 times 1. It's one big line. Oh, 1. That's good. I like that. All right. Now, I can simplify this down a little bit more because I could do some of this math in my head, like the square root of 1 is just 1 all over 4. Okay, so I have two things I have to solve here. I have 3 plus 1 over 4 and 3 minus 1 over 4. So those are my two answers. You do this, man. You probably can. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 divided by 4 is a half, or 0.5. There's my answer. I may have to move this just a little bit out of the way for the next question. Sorry. I know you can all do this the exact same thing I'm doing right now. Okay. Now, to get the next one, what we're going to have to do is that we're going to have to make it equal to 0 first. Always want to make these equal to 0. So add that 1 over, make this equal to 0. So we got 9w squared plus 6w plus 1 is equal to 0. Cool. Right? We got our A, we got our B, we got a C, so we're looking at w's this time. Honestly, it doesn't matter. You put an x there, I don't care. Oh, now it says minus b, but this time b is positive, so we don't have a negative situation. So we're actually going to write down negative 6 here. We got 6 squared, so that's 36. That's b squared. Minus 4 times 9 times 1. And then I'm going to divide that all by 2 times a, which is 18. So let's see what we have. 36 minus 4 times 9 times 1. Oh, 0. Also minus the root of 0. 18. Okay, so the square root of 0 is 0. So it's negative 6 plus or minus 0. So my two answers that I'm going to find, okay, two answers I'm going to find here are negative 6 plus 0 divided by 18 and negative 6 minus 0 divided by 18. Just a second. Plus 0 minus what? Negative 6 divided by 18. So both of these, plus 0 minus 0 ones, they both end up being negative 1/3. Because the discriminant is 0, I only get one answer, one solution. Just happens to be the same thing. Alright, so I'm going to put a box around that. Cool. And the other one here, the discriminant, it's 1. It's a positive number. Positive number means there's two solutions, right? If it's negative, no solutions, etc. This question here, I like this question because you really don't have to do any math, except for the knowledge about vertex form, right? If you know the P and the Q, that's the P and the Q, you know the vertex, right? Remember that from the previous chapter? So that means the vertex here, which is PQ, is 722. Remember that one inside the brackets has a flip side. So I can kind of sketch where this would be, like 722, I don't know, somewhere in this quadrant, right? Like that's 22 and this is 7. Doesn't have to be drawn to scale. And because of this number here, this is opening upwards because it's positive, so the graph is going this way. So if I made this equal to 0, like that's how many solutions I would have. So if I put a big 0 in this spot right here, how many solutions would I have? I wouldn't have any. Right? I would have no solutions. Sometimes it's just easier to sketch out a graph. And you could do this on a calculator if you're like lost, like, what's Mr. Allen talking about? Sketch the graph. Maybe I'll just type this in my calculator. 0.5 bracket x minus 7, x minus 7 squared plus 22. Plus 22. Graph. See anything here? Let's see. Window number 6. Oops. Zoom number 6. I still don't see anything. The reason I don't see anything is because the graph is so high up. So we are going to have to zoom out just a little bit here. So I'm going to go zoom out. There it is, right there. Oh, it doesn't cross the x-axis. It doesn't cross this red line I have here, so no solutions. Cool. Solve by graphing. Another solving by graphing. Actually, I'm just going to solve this by factoring if I can. So let's see if we can do this. See if you can do it one way, then do it that way. Like, why solve this one by graphing? And I can actually just say, oh, 4 and 3 multiplies out to 12, but one's negative, one's positive. Adds a negative 1, so the 4 has got to be negative. So my two answers are 4 and negative 3. But I should double check. Okay, so I minus over this 12 first. That's the first thing I did. Let's just double check here. So clear x squared minus x minus 12 graph. Oh, we're going to go zoom number 6. negative 3 and positive 4. There we go. Negative 3. 1, 2, 3. So negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Yeah, looks good. So I could solve this by factoring. You might as well solve it by factoring. That'd be even faster than typing it in your calculator. I think the next one I might have to solve some other way. If I'm going to try to solve this on my factoring, I don't like this negative here. I don't like that. That's a little sad face. So I'm going to move that. I'm going to move both of these over to the right side here. So I'm going to add x squared and minus 4x from both sides here. So I'm going to put a big 0 here. If I add the x squared over, there's no other x squareds to add with, so I'm just going to put in the front. I'm going to minus the 4x that direction. But there's a 4x there already, so minus 4x minus more 4x. I got negative 8x's plus 3. Oh. Okay, no. Oh, that sucks. I don't have any answers. There's no way to factor this. What times to 3 and adds to 8? That doesn't work. So I'm just going to try this in my calculator. It doesn't specify how to solve it. Can't solve it by factoring. It doesn't say solve it algebraically. So I'm just going to graph it and find these two solutions here. Second trace, number 5. Enter, enter, enter. 0.39. So I put that here. So x, so we go to 0.39. And then, let's do another one here. Second trace, 5. Enter, enter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go around 8-ish. 761. 7.61. 7.61. Now, when in doubt, if you're trying to solve it and you realize there's going to be some weird decimals and stuff, when in doubt, 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places. That's it. There's my 2 answers. There's nothing really. I could try to verify them, put it back into this original equation. But why? Yeah. Let's see what this kid did wrong here. Identify and correct any errors, and then maybe actually solve it as well. So we already identified this in class, but this kind of looks like a difference in squares. Because if I rearrange this a little bit, I don't know why they put it in this order. Maybe they put the x squared first. But if I rearrange it, I would get something that looks like this. 16x minus 36x squared is equal to 0. Actually, I could probably just all put it onto the other side of the equation. If I wanted to, I could rearrange this. It might be even better to move everything over to the other side, like add the 36x squared minus the 16x over. We get this new equation. So 36x squared minus 16x. Okay. Now this is not his mistake, right? It doesn't matter if you move it over or not. The mistake is he thought it looked like a difference of squares because 36 is a square, 16 is a square. There's at least a minus sign there. It kind of makes it a difference of squares if there's at least one minus sign. It has to be 1 minus 1 plus, actually. But he didn't see this x, or maybe he just ignored this x. This x is not squared, right? We'll write that down. Not squared. So this is not a difference of squares. So we'll write that down. Not a difference of squares. If it was, he factored it perfectly if it was, right? That's not a difference of squares because x is not squared. Squared is right? So how to factor this instead is to just look for the GCF. And it looks like I could divide everything by 4. We did this in class. And I could take an x out as well. All right, so we got 9x minus 4. Yeah, that looks right. It's equal to 0. And I look at these and say, okay, what would make this equal to 0? So 0. So this is highlighted with a different color. Gives us that 0, right? So if you see an x kind of sitting there by itself in the front, 0 is going to be one of your answers. And then this one, I'm just going to write on the side over here, 9x minus 4. My head's in the way. I don't think I can actually do anything with my head. Make it smaller. Oh, I can't make it smaller. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's get rid of that. 9x minus 4 is equal to 0. I'm going to add over the 4. divide by 9, divide across. Okay, so it looks like x has to be 4 over 9 because of the second part. Let me just highlight that too. There we go. Now you notice that 4 that's sitting in the front really has nothing to do with the question because 0 times 4 is just going to be 4. Any number kind of just sitting in the front there by itself, you can kind of cross it off if you want to. You can just divide it over the outside. But just don't divide the x over. There's my two answers. Another thing that you did wrong is maybe you should have verified it. You should have graphed it out and see if those actually are the answers. Sorry about that. Maybe I should do that. Let's see if we did it correctly. Negative 36x. Negative 36x. Oh, that didn't work well. X squared plus 16x. Graph. I have to zoom in here just a bit. Oh, zoom in. There you go. Oh, okay, so I'm going to go second trace 5, enter, enter, enter. All right, 0, 0. So x being 0 is one of my answers. And then second trace 5, enter, enter. 0.4 repeating. Is that the same thing as 4 over 9? Let's double check. 4 over 9. Yeah, it is the same. Remember, I could also go x. There's my answer, and then go math, enter, enter. And that gives me 4 over 9 as well. So both these are right. These are the right answers. So one thing he did wrong is he should have verified his answers, rather than just saying, these are my answers. Yay. But they're not. Remember, on word equations, you solve it just like any other equation. You can factor them, you can graph them, you can do all sorts of things with these. But the key is you have to analyze your answer at the end. If you get two answers, does one of them make sense and one of them not make sense? Make sure you double check. So I'll give you the equation. Like here, what price will you break even? So my profit to break even, if I'm going to break even, I want my profit to be 0. Right? I've paid off all my expenses. When do I actually start making money? What price of tickets would that happen? So I just have to solve for T here. T is the price of each of the tickets in dollars. So I crossed out this other one because it's asking for min-max. I'm not concerned about for this chapter. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly type this in my calculator over on the other side here. I'll bring my calculator over. So just remember that if you're going to type this in your calculator, don't use T's, use X's. Always use X's. There you go. This is my equation. So I made it equal to 0. Right? So I got a 0 line there. I got my equation with the 300 there. I'm going to hit graph. Probably going to hit zoom. Go back to zoom standard. So there's one answer. But most of the time there's going to be two answers. Looks like a pretty straight line. I just want to double check that I put the square there. Yeah. So there should be a curve here. So I'm going to zoom out. There are two answers here. All right? So which of these makes sense in the context of this question? Or is it asking for which ticket price will result in a charity to break even? All right, so it's probably this first ticket price. Let's double check. Second trace 5, enter, enter, enter. So it looks like 69 cents. Then you all giggle, right? Yeah. Okay. T is equal to $0.69. And there's another answer here, but we may want to analyze it and see if that one makes sense. Okay, so let's go second trace, intersect, enter, enter. I don't know what that is. Maybe $20 or something. Let's put 20 in there. Oh, $21.81. Right. $21.81. Now, what is this other number? So you got to think about what's happening as the ticket price increases. Let me just look at this graph here. I'm just going to make my X max or Y max a little bit bigger than it is. Probably should go higher than that. Just one second. Don't ignore what I'm doing here. You don't need to know this part. Gosh, let's go higher. They're making a lot of money here. Charities. ripping us all off here. Oh, got a little bit higher. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing is just trying to fit the whole graph in there. So I'm increasing the height of the graph until I can actually see the whole graph. I'm almost there. Just kind of guess checking. There's other ways to figure out what the height of the graph is. Okay. So here's what the graph looks like. Okay. So remember, the bottom is the X, but technically the ticket price. So as the ticket price increases, they're making more and more and more and more profit. Eventually, they're going to hit a maximum profit. But as the ticket price increases even more, they're making less profit. Why would they be making less profit? Because maybe as the ticket price increases, less people are coming to the charity because it's just too expensive. So they're trying to maximize the profit. So we can actually figure out when that maximum profit would be. But if it goes too high, it starts going down, the ticket prices get too high, and eventually what's going to happen is that when the ticket price reaches $22-ish, they're going to start losing money again because they're not getting enough people in. They're spending too much money on something else, maybe the back of the house stuff, but they're not bringing enough money from the people, so they start losing money again. So this second money price doesn't make any sense in the context of what they're asking for. What price ticket will result in it breaking even? This is the one we care about. 69 cents. They make money, but then they would make more money, and they start losing money because they start losing people. You can actually figure out the maximum if you want to. Second trace maximum here. That's number 4. It's going to ask us a few questions. No, sorry. Got to find the maximum of the blue graph here. Okay, there it is. So enter. Okay. So they had to sell tickets for about $11.25 to maximize the profits. Anything more than that, they start losing customers. All right, they start going back down to profits. All right, that's the end of this video. I'll see you tomorrow during the test. Bye.